All right. Well, my name is Bryan Auxier, and I'm the innovation coordinator at Paintsville Independent Schools. And for the last 7 years, I was the principal at the elementary school. And so when this job came open, I was pretty excited about it, and because I really like technology and using it in our schools and doing things differently and just trying to mix it up a little bit. And so that's kind of what we want to talk about, and we call it the domino effect because it just kind of starts maybe with one or two people, and then we just kind of go on from there. And I brought Mark Shortridge with us. He's a teacher at our high school, and he'll talk some more. But one of the first things that we started doing in our schools about 10 years ago is we decided we wanted to have interactive classrooms. And we started out with just 3 or 4 classrooms, and we had Promethean boards. And we gave them to just a few teachers, and we did that because, if you give everybody something, sometimes everybody's not ready for it. But we gave a few people Promethean boards, and then the next year we gave a couple of different people smart boards to see kind of what we liked and didn't like as it compared to 2 different types of interactive boards. We explored a couple more, but we really didn't buy any of those. We kind of stuck with that. And what we found out was that for the most part, we liked using, as a school, the smart boards more often. And so that's what we started buying. And now every classroom that we have in Paintsville, kindergarten through 12th grade, is an interactive classroom. We have either a Promethean board, a smart board, and now we also have a couple of Mondo pads that came with the ARI grant. And even Mr. Shortridge, he has the one at the high school, but he also has a smart board, and he uses them together in conjunction, which is a really great tool, because some people thought, I don't need a Mondo pad because I got a smart board. But he figured out a way to use them both, and he'll show you some of that and talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. But we have interactive classrooms, and 10 years ago we just had a couple, but now we have them all over the place because we're just starting step by step. But also 10 or 15 years ago we started putting computers in the classroom. The big towers, and we'd have 1 or 2, and like you said, we'd play games with them in the corner. Or I taught 4th grade for years, and so I always wanted computers because I thought it was a whole lot easier to read 4th graders typing than it was their writing. I was doing the writing portfolio. And so we were using, computers to compose our writing portfolios. And so that was really the biggest use we were getting out of it. We weren't doing a whole lot of other things besides that, but we were doing that. We had computers, and we were doing that. And, we still didn't use all the capability, especially like what the Mac had with iMovie and all those things even 8 or 9 years ago. But I can remember in one classroom, well, not in one classroom, in my classroom, when I was a teacher 10 years ago, I had some Macs. And so after testing was over, when you were allowed to just do fun stuff, right? How it was that last month, we would write fairy tales, and the kids would make movies, and we would produce those. And last year, some of those kids were seniors, and they wanted those movies. They said, "You still have those movies?" And they were playing them at their senior breakfast. And that was stuff that they remembered from 4th grade, 8 or 9 years ago. And we did it after testing because we didn't want to interfere with the real learning. But that was the thing that they remembered about 4th grade. And then we started getting laptops. I remember I got a laptop lab, and it was the greatest thing because I didn't have to go to the computer lab to type. We could do all that kind of stuff, and so we were typing with that. But then when iPods came out, the iPod Touch, as a principal, I decided this would be a great tool because I had kids of my own at home, and I had an iPod, and they loved it, and they could do all kinds of neat stuff on it. So I bought every teacher in our building an iPod Touch, and I made them do their lesson plans one whole year on iPods, just so they would get used to how to use it. And then they started saying, can I use it with my kids in center time? I'm like, yeah, whatever you want to do. And then it wasn't long after the iPod Touch came out that the iPad came out. So we bought a classroom set. I bought 25 of those when they first came out, and we started using those in the classroom. And we were basically just playing games and doing different things, but we were trying to get used to using it. And we were just trying to get it in our system a little bit, how we could use it, what could we do? Because the world was changing, and we had to change with it, and we had to adapt. The Kindle Fire, they were cheaper than iPads, so I said, let's try some of those. And so we did that, and one of my teachers, she loved them, and she did a lot of good stuff, and she was a teacher who didn't teach reading from a textbook. She liked to read from novels, and so we bought a bunch of ebooks, and she would read with her class on those Kindles. And so it replaced some of the paperback books, and we started using that. And then she found out she could do some apps, and so then the science teacher was wanting to borrow them after reading class because she was doing some science apps on them. And same thing, we were doing some of that stuff with iPads too. And this is a picture of the Q tablet, because when we got the next generation classroom with the Mondo Pad, we got the Q tablets to go along with it. And, it's basically a Windows-based tablet. And so, we now have about 50 of those in our district, and we use those. And our kids use those to create things, and they use iPods and iPads to create things and do all that kind of stuff. And we've also decided that cell phones aren't really so evil at our high school. And we let our kids use them in their class. We let kids bring their own stuff sometimes. And right here I have a little movie that a fourth grade student, it's my son, I'll just be honest. I said, take your iPad to school tomorrow, this was last week, and go take pictures of kids using technology and make me a movie about it. And so this is what he did. He did it. I didn't do anything. He did it all. Tiger Productions. That's my boy. See, we're the Tigers. See, we got new computers, old computers, all kinds of stuff mixed in there. We try to use it all. These are kindergarten students in that picture. It's one of those that doesn't have a camera. It's 8 years old, but our teachers have kept those things. We've taken care of it. Now, we've lost a few. They died. We've had things stolen. That happens. But those white IMAX are from 2005. So we're trying to use all that stuff while we can, and to just to put it into perspective and to use those things. And it's just a domino effect. Like I said, 15 years ago, we didn't have any interactive classrooms. Now, a teacher would die if we put them in a classroom and said, everybody's going to have an interactive classroom but you. That wouldn't work anymore as administrator. And it's changed, and I think it's changing now, the same with these devices. And Mr. Shortridge teaches high school social studies, and he has Mondo Pad, he has a class set of Q tablets, he has a smart board with a clicker system, and he allows his kids to bring their own devices. So why don't you tell them a little bit about what you're doing, and then we've got a video about some things going on in his class we'll show you real quick.
Sure. He was talking about I do allow my students to bring their own stuff, whether it be a laptop. There's just a lot of people who like different things. Some people like a laptop, some people like a tablet, some people like just different things. And that's been a little bit of a fight with the cell phones especially. I think it's one thing that we just really... Okay, all right, sorry. And it's one of those things, I think that's just taboo, is the cell phone. And it's something that we just need to break through with, because we have a computer right there in our pocket, every one of us, and especially our kids. They love using it, and they can learn from it. I mean, it's a whole bank of information. As a social studies teacher, I really want to focus more on my students doing analysis and different things like that, not just basic memorization. If they need a certain fact of the day, guess what they're going to do? They're going to look on their phones, they're going to Google it, and within about 15 seconds, they've got it. So I do encourage them to bring their own stuff, and I do encourage them to use their phones. Now, of course, there's limits to what they do. But I do have a lot of technology. I'm extremely blessed. And when my Mondo pad, we wheeled that in the first day of school, I told my students, I said, we are extremely fortunate in here. We probably have more technology in this room than maybe, there's probably nobody that's got more. We have a tremendous amount and we are going to use it. But one of the big mistakes I made is when we wheeled that Mondo pad in, just the hustle and the bustle of the first days of school, it actually got wheeled in by the janitors and brought it up and they put it in front of my smart board, and here I'm just going to town the first day, and a couple days in I said, what in the world am I doing? I've got 2 pieces of technology here and I've got it blocked in the smart board. So I've got it on each wall, and as a social studies teacher, it's a great tool for me because I can throw maps up, on one, I can have a PowerPoint or a Prezi on the other. I can just have a lot going on. I can have a video going on the smart board and have that Mondo pad, the actual whiteboard, and be taking notes and putting points of emphasis. I can put objectives on one with PowerPoint. I can do a lot of things with the technology.
And he does, and we got a little video we'll show you then if you want to ask a couple of questions. But this, our media class maybe, it was actually one of the winners for the thing, but they did it based on the things that are going on in his classroom.
If you notice on a lot of those shots, it's dark in my classroom. Some of those are dark. And the reason it's dark is because there's technology cranking on 2 walls. So,
yeah. And it really is. And he does a great job to integrate it, and the kids love it. And it's working really good. And the reason we try to call it the domino effect is because I've got teachers coming to me all the time saying, how can I get stuff like Mark has in his classroom? One of the other social studies teachers wrote a mini grant. He didn't get it. But he said, look, I really need some tablets so I can do this digitally based classroom. So I went and got him some with some other funds that we had. And now he's doing that. And we had so many teachers that now they're lining up. They're coming all the time saying, when can we write mini grants? Because I want to try this, I want to try that. And what it is you have success in a classroom here or there. Just like we had success with interactive classrooms, we had some success with individual devices. Now with this next generation classroom, we're having that success. And he's doing a lot of project-based learning. Kids are creating things either digitally or actually physically in his classroom. And people are coming and wanting to be a part of that. So sometimes I think, it takes a little while that way, but when you can prove that you're successful, it works. That's our story.